Shalom, shalom, and boker tov to everyone watching here on the Waves of Israel, Los Caminos de Israel. We're going to look at the second argument that Troki puts together regarding faith strength and why Yeshua is not the Mashiach, is not the Messiah. And a lot of these arguments that he presents can easily be used for other Messianic groups who have alleged that their leader is Mashiach. Almost point by point, we can see the same parallels throughout the Jewish history on failed messiahs. Now, on number 2, I want you to look at that as to the works of Jesus, we find that he says of himself in Matthew 10, verse 34, "Think not that I am come to make peace, not to send peace, but a sword, and to set a man at variance against his father and daughter, against his mother and daughter-in-law, against her mother-in-law, and on and so forth." However, we find in the scriptures attributing to the true and expected Messiah actions contrary to those that Jesus mentions. We see here that Jesus says to himself, he has not come to make peace on earth, whereas scripture says of the true expected Messiah in Zechariah 9, verse 10, "And he shall speak peace unto the heathens." And Jesus says he came in order to send the sword to the earth or on the earth. But scripture says in Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4, "They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, and nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and neither shall they learn war anymore." Jesus, or Yeshua, says he came to put father and son at variance. In other words, into a fighting situation one with another. And by the way, let me just insert that almost every single messianic movement in Jewish history has done the same thing, has caused a division in the household where you have one side of the family more ultra religiously observant than another side. It didn't try to come and embrace all of them, but rather in order to create either you're on our side of the fence or you're on the outside of the fence. This is the same thing that Jesus said, to put a sword, a dividing sword between the ultra observant and the non-observant. But here Jesus says he came to put the father and son at variance. But Malachi says at the end of his book that before the coming of the true Mashiach, the prophet Eliyahu, Elijah shall appear and turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to the fathers. In other words, just the opposite power, dividing and separating, bringing them together, looking for the unification of the Jewish people, the Jewish family, not its contrary. So when you have a movement that begins to split and cause tension between a father and a son because of the belief system that movement takes place, that is doing the same thing as what Jesus did. And in this specific situation, this is one of the reasons why Jews in history had rejected the messiahship of Jesus, because instead of uniting, it has separated. It has been a cause of tension and contention to separate the father and the son relationship. And Jesus says concerning himself, Messiah, however, scripture says in Psalms, it says, "Yea, all the kings shall prostrate themselves before him. All the nations shall serve him." And in Zechariah 9, verse 10, "His dominion of the Mashiach, shall be from sea even to sea, from the river even to the end of the earth." Thus states the book of Daniel in chapter 7, verse 27, "And all of the rulers shall serve him and obey him." Oh, wouldn't that be nice? We have the socialistic democratic leaders have to give homage to the Mashiach, and they're going to have to give up all of their previous pretenses. In our next video, the period of his existence, it's evident that Yeshua did not come at the foretold mentioned time by the prophets, but rather he predicted the advent of the Messiah that happens at a later date. And we're going to take a look at that in our next video. But in this video, we make it very clear, according to the author of Trokim, who happens to be a Karaite, by the way, and is only holding by biblical verses, that in fact, according to Scripture, our Scripture, Yeshua is not the Mashiach because he caused division among the ranks of Israel and caused this type of dissipation and division one with another to such an extent that by the time that we read in Jewish history, Judaism began to divide itself in multiple factions, and there was a cause that anyone who believed in Jesus was basically excommunicated from the Jewish community, all because of the changes of teachings and doctrines that was taking place. So, my friends, another reason why, even till this day, Jews will not accept Jesus as their Messiah is simply because it's a divisive issue. It's an issue that he, being Messiah, not fulfilling what the Scripture says, has caused a big split. Not to mention the inquisitions and so many programs that in his name was brought about the necks of many Jews. So here's another reason why we Jews don't accept Yeshua strengthened.